Right. Jeff Gibby is a friend of all of ours, really. Pat, Nikki, me, Raleigh. We all go way back with Jeff. Pat, Nikki, me, Raleigh. We all go way back with Jeff. I know the slide says Jeffrey, but okay. Jeff Gibby, personal friend of all of ours. Metastock, what a great company. They are one of the pioneers in our industry of trading platforms, and they can give you pretty much anything you want. They are one of those companies that has been ingrained with us for, I don't know, 20 plus years. So I hope that you'll take time to listen to Jeff talk about tools, right? Because without the tools, we can't make any money. I'm always asking, what are the best tools out there? What are the best platforms? What are the things that have the right indicators attached to the right trading professionals that are going to help us make money? Jeff Gibby's one of those guys, and as is Metastock. Jeff, do you want to mic up for me, and let's see if we can see your screen?
Yeah. How's it going?
Yeah. Good morning.
I want to congratulate Nikki for being able to vote this year.
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that?
That's awesome, Jeff.
Let's see.
All right, Jeff, share your screen for me, buddy.
I'm working on it. The little Zoom console popped out of there. Let's see.
There it is.
All right, very good.
All right, Jeff, it's all yours until 11 Eastern. Have at it, brother.
I'm ready. Okay, thanks. Thank you. It's good to be here. I want to say hello to everybody. Welcome. If you have questions, I've got the questions panel open. You're welcome to kind of throw any questions you want up there. I'll do my best to answer them. I want to say thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Good morning. It's about 8 in the morning here. So I'm still waking up a little bit, but I have had enough coffee to kind of get through this. So it is good to be here. I'm going to go ahead and read a legal disclaimer because it's required of me by our attorneys. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using Metastock and accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by those investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading, and Metastock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So there you go. I do want to just to kind of talk a little bit about my history here. About 23 short years ago, I started for a company called Metastock. And in March, it'll be 24 years. My kind of introduction to the company is I had a friend that was working here. She's like, you know, this is a pretty awesome little company. I'm located here in Salt Lake City. You should come get a job here. And so I did. And I figured, you know, I'd have it for a year or two. It's just been such a great place to work. I've learned a lot about the markets. We run a little tight little company. When I started, we were owned by Reuters. That was back in 1995. My job back then was to, well, no, I started in 97. But we were purchased by Reuters in 95. My job was to answer questions about the software. So if you had questions and wanted to kind of know how Metastock could help what you were doing back in 97, you'd likely talk to me. I was one of about 5 or 6 sales guys at the time. And I did that for like a decade. And that was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy that. After that, for another decade or so, I actually traveled the world, worked with a lot of educators, and that was a lot of fun as well. A lot of the people that are actually speaking today, I've had the pleasure of talking to, and a lot of them we've developed software for that kind of plugs into Metastock, and it's been a pretty good job. It's actually been an awesome job. Let me not underplay it. The last 2-3 years, I've actually been in charge of our inside sales team. So that's been also a lot of fun. And that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of the history. And I kind of probably spent a few too many minutes on it. But I do want you to know that Metastock's been in business for quite a number of years. When I started, like I said, we were owned by Reuters. Reuters turned into Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters turned into Refinitiv. And about 7 years or so ago, we kind of bought ourselves back from Refinitiv. If you're not familiar with Thomson Reuters or Refinitiv, it's okay. They're about a $19 billion a year company, or at least they were last time I looked at their financials. It's been a long time. But one of the things that they do, and 90% of that $19 billion that they generate, is selling real-time news and information to mutual funds, to hedge funds, to institutional traders. And as one of the positions that we have, even though we're not owned by Reuters anymore, we have access to all of their news and their fundamentals and their data. So literally, like the news platform that they've spent $1 billion designing, have thousands of reporters and hundreds of news bureaus supporting to give banks and institutions and hedge funds the right information. We have the ability to sell that to retail traders at a much lower cost. And so that's been a really good thing. We also, of course, we're going to talk about Metastock today, but one of the things that's been beneficial for us is, we cover about 300 different exchanges, over 300,000 instruments. So if you're listening today and you're listening from India, you can use our software with your Indian stuff. We have a lot of Indian traders, actually. If you're in Australia, you can use our software with your Australian data. You can use London, pretty much anything that you're interested in, if it's stocks or futures or commodities, you name it, we're going to be able to cover the data for that. So in any case, one of the things that I also like to kind of brag about, and we're proud of this, but for 27 years in a row, we've been rated #1 in our price category. So that's a little bit of an introduction into Metastock and kind of like the background of our company. It's been my pleasure to work for a company that has such a good sales and service and support team, everything based here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So in any case, let's go ahead and get to the class, shall we? If you're not familiar with this guy, his name's Richard Dennis, and he has a fairly interesting story, and I think it kind of lays out pretty well into what I want to talk about today. Richard Dennis, if you're not familiar with the story, was a famous trader. He's a futures trader back in, I think, the 70s, early 80s, and Richard Dennis and Bill Eckhart, I had to think for a second because it is a little bit early, were two famous traders. And they had a bit of a gentleman's disagreement. Richard thought that they could come in and they could teach anybody to trade as successfully as they did. Bill Eckhart disagreed. They both had a lot of money, and so they decided to do a gentleman's agreement or a gentleman's bet on it. And so what they ended up doing is they basically recruited a whole bunch of traders. The concept was called the turtle trader. There's a very good article on Wikipedia on it. But they basically recruited a bunch of traders. They put ads in papers, and they brought them in and they taught them how to trade. And it wasn't a successful operation. It was extremely successful. They made a huge amount of money, and their year over years, I think, was something like 70% or higher. And one of the things that came out of that is the quote that you see on the screen. I always say you could publish rules in a newspaper. Almost nobody would follow them. The key to trading is consistency and discipline. I always thought that was a little bit important. When we start to kind of play in Metastock, we're going to talk about trading rules and how to trade with trading rules. We're going to test trading ideas. We're going to kind of learn about MACD today. But I think one of the most important thing, aside from having a good set of rules, is consistency and discipline. When I do this kind of presentation and I have a live audience, one of the things I actually ask is, what profession is the best for trading? And it's interesting to look at people and kind of see them think about this question for a minute. But a lot of times they'll come back and they'll say, well, maybe a physician or a psychologist or something along those lines. The actual answer is a trading pilot. And I've thought about that in the past. Why would a pilot be a good trading profession to have before you start trading? And I think it's the discipline. Because when you're a pilot, you have a very, very clear idea of when you want to take off and when you want to land. And you have a very clear instruction set about what you should be doing if you need to take off and you need to land, or if there's an emergency, what you should be doing. And I believe it's the discipline. But we're not going to talk a lot about discipline today. We're going to talk about the other aspect of that, the trading plan. And so what I'm going to do during today's kind of 40 minutes left or whatever I've got is we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to teach you a trading plan built on Gerard Appel's We're going to kind of talk about how it works. We're going to talk about MACD, and then we're going to kind of talk about how we can use technology today to see, maybe is that the best trading idea that's available and that kind of stuff. So, and we'll spend most of the time in the software. In fact, if you're listening, there haven't been any questions, but I'm looking for questions. If you have some symbols you'd like to look at today, let me know. I don't like to come in here with kind of perfect examples of things that work well. What I like to be able to do is actually show you how the software would work on the symbols you're interested in. And it's, as you know, it's easy to go in and cherry pick a whole bunch of symbols that may or may not work. What I want is to kind of keep the presentation a little bit more dynamic. So, as I mentioned today, we are going to talk about Gerald Appel. Here's a picture of him. And if you're not familiar with him, he developed the MACD indicator, okay, the MACD. And I'm just going to make sure I have Q&A open here, just in case. I do, okay. And is there a chat option too? I'm not as familiar with Zoom. Looks like there's there's chat too. Okay. All right, cool. All right. So Gerald Appel created the MACD indicator. And let's talk a little bit about how that's designed. Do you guys have any symbols you want to look at? Let me know. Otherwise, we'll just deal with kind of Dow industrial averages. GLD, you bet, Johnny. Thank you. Let's start with GLD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up Metastock here. We've got the power console, what we call the power console, and that's just where you open everything up in, okay? Here we've got charting. This is a little bit of a quote screen. This is scanning. Scanning, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about. It's one of my favorite things about Metastock because as an options trader, I can scan through 4,000 optionable stocks and find the stocks that I'm interested in. We have system testing. We have, in my opinion, one of the best system testers that's available out there. Here's our forecaster and here's our option scope program. So Johnny, you got it. We're going to look at GLD. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to do kind of a bit of a clean chart. So I don't want a lot of indicators on there. I'm just going to go ahead and open up GLD. We'll go ahead and open that up as a clean chart. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and grab the data for me, and you can see the data is right here. Now, you may not be familiar with MACD or how it works. There's a lot of people that actually are familiar with or use MACD, but they don't know how it works. And so what I'm going to do is actually kind of talk a little bit about how it's calculated, how it's used, and how you can use it to get signals. And then we're going to talk about how you can kind of compare that to other different trading methodologies. So right here, we've got a chart of gold. I'm going to make it into a candlestick chart. And one of the things I like about Metastock is anytime I want to change something, I just double click on what I want to change. And we'll just make this into a candlestick chart, only because I prefer to look at a candlestick chart. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of indicators to this chart. You might be familiar with a moving average and a MACD, but we're going to start with the moving average. I do want you to know right here, this is our indicator quick list. And we have about 200 or 300 different indicators you can actually put in a chart. You can tell the ones that I actually use because they're here at the top for me. And Metastock does remember out of those 300, the ones that you use, and it puts them at the top. It does that automatically. You don't really need to worry about that. So I'm going to add a couple moving averages to this chart. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop them where I want them to go. So everything in Metastock is fairly easy to get to. If I want to add an indicator to a chart, I just drag it to where I want it to be. I drop it on the chart. One of the things that we've really spent a lot of time in Metastock is kind of keeping the interface out of your way. So we've tried to make things as intuitively as possible so that you can kind of do what you need it to do, okay? We're going to do a 9-period exponential moving average. I'm going to go ahead and make it blue. And just so that you can see it on your screen better, I'm going to go ahead and make it a bit thicker. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK right here. I'm going to add another moving average real quick. And just the same process that I just did. Go ahead and drag and drop it on the chart. This one is going to be a 12-period exponential moving average based on the close. Okay. I didn't make that one a bit thicker, so that you can see it's a little bit skinny. But as I had kind of said a little bit earlier, if I want to make it a bit, if I want to change it, I can just double click on it and it'll bring back up the property dialog box. And you should be able to see this better. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and now drag MACD on the, and drop it on the chart. And then that way we can talk about how MACD is calculated. Since I don't want it in this window, I'm just gonna drop it at the top. Metastock again is gonna automatically open up a new window for me and put it at the very top, okay? Mike asks a question, how do you make good use of volume indicators with MACD? Well, you can do it any way you want to, Mike. I like to look at, personally, I like to look at, when I'm making trading decisions, volume and how it is compared to its moving average. And I'll show you what I mean real quick. That's actually a really good question. I don't think we'll go into huge amounts of detail on it, but I do like to see that volume is increasing. So real quickly though, I'm going to go ahead and change this to a histogram before I drop it on the chart. And I'll just show you volume and kind of what I like to look for at a very basic level to kind of help address your question, Mike. And I appreciate the question. So if I put a volume on here, I'm going to go ahead and drop volume at the very bottom of this chart. It wasn't part of the initial template. And what I usually do is I'll put a moving average on top of my volume, which I can do with Metastock. I'm going to go ahead and do this, okay? And usually it's like a 20 period simple is what I'm looking at. Where's it at? Things are running a bit slower in the Zoom room than they normally do, but that's okay. We'll do a 20 period simple, okay? And then I'm going to merge that on the scale at the right. And so that easy is I'm able to see what volume is and what average volume is, okay? And typically for me, because you asked how I like to measure volume, I just like to see that it's above average. So if we're up above this average volume, I know that we kind of have some force behind whatever kind of decision I'm making. So that's how I use it. There's all kinds of volume indicators. We'll test some when we get into the testing phase. That's personally one of the things that I look at. Kind of think it depends on who you're talking to. Like Greg Morris, if you're familiar with him, likes to see volume going up for 3 days in a row. He likes to see that it's above average volume, you know, that kind of stuff as well. So there you go. All right, let me get back on track a little bit mentally. All right, so we did put a MACD on here. I'm gonna just kind of change the color of the MACD just because I prefer to have it black. And again, I can just double click on it, change it to the color I want it to be. And it's fairly easy to do. If I was gonna talk to you about how you actually calculate a MACD, first of all, I wanna say MACD is a trend indicator and it's a momentum indicator. And you'll probably hear today a lot of people saying, well, the trend is your friend, or rising tide lifts all boats, or befriend the trend, or, you know, all those kind of cliches. But MACD does measure trend, and it does a really good job of that. It also measures momentum, okay? If I wanted to calculate a MACD, if I wanted to kind of tell you how it's calculated, we've got a 9-period exponential moving average right here, and we've got a 12-period exponential moving average underneath it, the red line, okay? If I was to take the value of the 9-period, the blue line, and subtract it from the 12-period, the difference between those two moving averages is gonna give me this MACD number here, okay? So it's gonna give me the value of the black histogram line. If that's not clear to you, let me know and I'll try and say it a different way. But that's all it is. When we're looking at this MACD, we're just looking at the difference between this moving average and a moving average just slightly larger, and that's it, okay? Very simple calculation, we can use this as a way to measure both trend and momentum, okay? And let me talk a little bit about momentum, okay? If we're in a fairly, let's say, flat period of MACD, maybe like right in here, or maybe back in here. Or if we're in a fairly flat period of MACD, what we're gonna see is a very flat, if we're in a flat trend, we're gonna see a very flat MACD because the difference between our shorter and our longer term moving averages are not that big. Whereas if you kind of get into a trend right here, the difference between your shorter term and your longer term moving averages are going to increase, and you're going to have a larger value. So already we can kind of see what the momentum is looking like, how much enthusiasm is in this case with gold. Okay, and that's how you look at it to measure momentum. You'll also notice that in addition to this black line, you've got what they call a signal line. The signal line is simply a moving average of the black line. So that's a moving average of the difference of these 2 points, okay? And the default is going to be a 9 period. I had to go in and look. The default is going to be a 9 period moving average of the difference, okay? So we've got the difference between the moving averages and an average that they call a signal line. And they call that a signal line because you can use it to measure if you're bullish or bearish, or if your MACD is bullish or bearish. What do I mean by that? Well, okay, so right here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my horizontal line tool with Metastock. And right here, you'll notice that we started right here on the chart, we started trading down below its signal line, okay? This, as long as the MACD is down below its signal line, you're gonna say that the MACD is in a bearish trend or a bearish phase, okay? When it's up above its signal line, and then as a bearish phase, you expect that a bit of a correction is associated with that, okay? When it's up above its signal line, like it looks like it popped up above its signal line here, and I'll just go ahead and draw this on the chart too. Right here, it went from being down below its signal line to being up above it. Looks like right here, then you're gonna say that MACD went into a bullish phase, okay? So the first way that we're gonna talk about using MACD in your trading is we're gonna talk about using it in conjunction with a signal line. So if we cross up into a bullish phase right here, our anticipation is that gold is gonna start to rise. And if that's what we're anticipating, then that's a good time that we might look to go ahead and buy the stock. So, and if we bought the stock right here and we sold it when it went bearish again, we can figure out exactly if that helped us make money, okay? I'm gonna attach a tool in Metastock that'll help me kind of explain what's going on, the other 2 things that you're looking at with the MACD, and that's what we call the expert advisor here. So this little guy used to be in a bolo hat, now it's wearing, I guess, I don't know what kind of a hat, a top hat? No, he used to wear a top hat, now he's wearing a bolo hat. So, but what I'm gonna do here is, this is our expert advisor. I'm gonna come down here, and we have an expert in here. There's about 40 that are built into the program. You can build your own if you want. You can build your own indicators. You can build your own scans. You can build your own system tests, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna come down here, and there is gonna be a expert in here called MACD by Metastock, or Equus MACD. We changed the name of it to Metastock by MACD in the kind of the newer versions of the program, just so people could find it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull in the MACD by Metastock. I'm gonna go ahead and attach that to the chart, and it's gonna make some changes to my chart. So every time we go into a bullish or a bearish phase on MACD, you're gonna notice that we have a trend ribbon that shows up here, okay? When it goes from bullish to bearish, you're gonna get a buy signal on the chart, okay? Because you went from bearish to where you think the stock is gonna go up. Here you went from bullish to where you think the stock is gonna go sideways or down, or at least the enthusiasm is gone, okay? So those are gonna automatically be labeled for us, okay? The other thing that we can use MACD is as a momentum indicator, okay? So the first way, we can look at the signal line. We can get buy and sell decisions off of the signal line. The second way we can look at it is as an overbought or an oversold indicator, okay? And it's kind of a bit of a reversion to the mean strategy, okay? So if we start to get really, really high values in MACD, like maybe right here in gold, what you're gonna notice is you're gonna start to get these red markers on the chart. And basically what that's telling you is that you might be entering into an extended zone, and that we might be starting to expect a reversion to the mean type of a play, okay? So there you go. Let me take a look at exactly kind of what the commentary is gonna tell us, because I wanna open this up. I'm gonna open up the commentary. And Venu asked a question, is MACD a leading indicator? Did you like that answer? That's a good question, because it depends on how you use it. If you're just looking at MACD to get the buy and sell signals? It's not. It's actually a lagging indicator. Okay, right here, these signals are going to generally tend to lag because we're looking at not just 2 moving averages, we're looking at 3 moving averages. Okay, we can use it a little bit as a leading indicator if we look at it in an overbought or oversold zone. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about how that happens. So right here, I've opened up the expert commentary window. You notice when I attach that expert advisor, we got buy and sell signals, we got the ribbons, we got the highlights on the chart. This expert advisor will actually explain to us using MACD right now, because that's the expert I attached, what's going on this chart. Okay, looking at the time we're doing. Okay, I need to move a little quicker though. So right here, when I open up this commentary, this day, this very last day on the chart, is actually going to tell us about what MACD is happening today. Okay, the MACD can provide buy and sell indicators in 3 ways: signal line crossovers, overbought, oversold conditions, and divergences. Okay, so since it's looking at this day, currently the MACD is bearish since it's trading below its signal line. The MACD crossed below its signal line 17 days ago. Since the MACD crossed its moving average, actually the price has increased 1.16%. Okay. Now, if I want to move this arrow, this tells us what day it's looking at. If I wanted to see what this red meant, I could actually move that arrow over, and my metastock will ignore everything that happened since then. So now we're just looking at this day on the chart where we had the ray, and basically what it's warning us about is the MACD is in an overbought range. This means prices can continue to move higher for some time, and wait for prices to move lower before considering any shorter positions. So what it's saying basically is like, okay, we've kind of traveled some pretty good distance here, right? We've went from this buy signal, we were sitting at 164 on the close, to the bar that we're looking at where it's up at 193 in a relatively short period of time, okay? What it's warning us about is that we might be entering an overbought, oversold condition, but we don't really want to act on this. We might move our stop up, because if you followed the market, it can stay overbought or oversold for some time. So we want to get a confirmation of this, but this right here is just warning us that we might want to move our stop loss, okay? The other thing that you're going to look at here, so the 3 different things that you can look at with MACD fairly easily, is divergence, okay? And one of the things that a person that I really like in the industry, I told you I have the ability to work with a lot of really smart traders. If you're familiar with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alexander Elder, he talks about divergence. He's got a book, it's amazing. It's called Come Into My Trading Room. He talks about MACD divergence, and he calls it the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis, okay? What we'd be looking for with MACD divergence, and we're not going to get into a huge class, just we don't have time, on what to look for divergence, but it's actually a fairly simple concept, so I'll talk about it quickly. If I was to look at kind of the trend of MACD right here, okay? If I wanted to kind of look at, let's say, this peak to this peak, right? I can draw a trend line between those peaks, and you can see that we've generally got an upsloped trend line between those 2 peaks, okay? If I was going to draw that same trend line where the same spots on the chart, I could do that. And if we compared those trend lines, they both have an upward slope. That's not divergent, okay? If we had a bit of a drop down in this MACD or in this trend line, like if one of them was looking like this and the other was still going up, this would be what we would consider a bearish divergence. And that's what Alexander Elder calls the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis. Would be we'd want to kind of take that into consideration. So the expert advisor isn't seeing that type of a divergence on the chart. It'll check the last 5 bars, and if it sees it, it'll let you know. But right now, it's not seeing that divergence. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this off of the chart. I'm just gonna kind of sum up, because that's the way MACD works. Samir says, great, this is one of my important indicators. Oh, I hope this is good. Samir says, I want to understand it well and efficiently. And I hope that was helpful. So that's the way you can look at MACD. The whole point of that is, and the reason I started talking about MACD in specific is, number one, it's fairly simple. I can kind of come in and within about 10 or 15 minutes, talk about like kind of how it works and how it's calculated and how you can use it to get fairly clear signals, right? There's a few things that I like about MACD, but in technical analysis in general, okay? You notice we kind of sat there and we talked about MACD for a number of minutes, and we talked about how you can get buy and sell signals, how you can look at the trend, and not one time during that whole 20 minutes that I was talking about MACD did I mention that we should look at what the Fed is doing. Not one time did we look and say, well, okay, we should do this if Trump gets reelected. Not one time did I say, okay, this is what we're looking at if QE4 happens, or, you know, name your flavor of the market panic of the week. We're not looking at things like that. What we're looking at is we're looking at the trend and the momentum of the stock that we want to trade and making decisions that are related to that. Okay, and that's it. All right. So I like it because it's objective. It's not subjective, and it gives us really clear ideas of what we're looking at. If we're wrong, we're wrong. In the case of if we took a sell signal right here and the price has actually gone up on gold, that's going to happen from time to time. But since I'm using a method that's totally objective, I should have a stop in here. I should know why I'm trading, and I should allow me to have more discipline in my trading. Okay. Now, that's also the reasons I like technical analysis too, by the way. But let's talk a little bit more about kind of MACD in general. It's definitely not my favorite system. It might not be the best one to trade gold against, or Apple, or diamonds, or whatever it is that you're looking to trade. MACD may not be the best one, okay? And it certainly probably isn't. Since everything here is objective, I can go in here and say, well, if I bought here and if I sold here, how well would that have worked? If I would have taken every buy and sell signal on this chart, how well would that have worked? Or because I have software, I could actually just say, well, okay, well, if I traded GLD or a basket of stocks, or maybe if I'm just an optional trader, I want to test the whole optional markets, what's the best indicator-based method I should be using, and which one works best for me? Okay, and then that gives me a better answer, because then maybe we don't need to spend 20 minutes learning about MACD. Maybe we can focus our education on the systems or the methodologies that work best on GLD or on the S&P 500 or whatever it might be you're interested in. And let me go ahead and show that to you. So how that works. So I'm going to go back into the Power Console. Okay. And if you're familiar with the concept of system testing, that's great. I'm going to talk real quickly while I set up a system test about the things I like about our system tester. I think, and I am biased, they've been paying me for 23 years now, but I think we have one of the best system testers available. With this, what I've done is I've made a list of my 58 systems that I know are included in Metastock, because again, you can make your own. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these 58 systems. And if I wanted to, I could go in and say, well, I want to take all of these 58 systems based on different indicators and test them against the S&P 500. And I want you to go back 20 years, and I want you to tell me what works best. And within just a couple mouse clicks, I can start that process, and it'll go test every single stock in that basket for me. And I can get a clear idea of what works, what stocks they work with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to run that test because it takes probably about 5 or 10 minutes to complete that. So what I'm going to do instead is we'll just select a few stocks. And since you were nice enough to provide gold, we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on Apple as well. We're going to do IBM. A little stock named Tesla we'll throw in here just for fun. And Microsoft, I guess. And I think that's good. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks. Okay. We're going to go in and do 58 different systems. And if we go in here, you'll look, and there's a MACD by Metastock. So we're going to test the MACD against all these other systems. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it do long trades and short trades. So I'll do both. I'm going to have it go back 252 days. That's about a year. Okay. And we're going to just have it take every single buy and sell decision and tell us what works best. Okay. In trade options, you can come in here. We're going to start in here at an initial equity of $10,000. And I can set this simulation up in quite a number of different ways. But for now, I'm just going to say, hey, I want to trade 75% of my available equity every time I get a signal. Okay. You can also say number of units or transaction costs, or you can set this up however you want. I'm going to do 75%. That means, and I am going a little bit quickly on purpose, that my first trade is going to be $7,500. If I grow my account to 20,000, it's going to take 75% of that. So it's basically whatever I have available is what it's going to use to trade and to evaluate these different indicator-based methods. Okay. And so Mara, that's what we're going to talk about, is which is the best one. Okay. Under broker, have 0 and 0 because the race to 0 is complete with brokers. We don't pay for trades anymore. And under trade execution, I'm going to have it wait and do what we call realistic market prices. And all that means is it's going to wait till the end of the bar to actually buy and sell. It'll always sell on the after. It'll make the decision after the bar is closed. And since the bar is closed, realistic just means it's going to wait one day and buy at the open of the next bar. We're testing on a daily interval here, but that's the same. If we're doing a 30-minute, it waits till the end of the bar and buys on the open of the next bar. You can go in and put in slippage and stuff like that. You just right here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start this thing. It's not going to take very long. We're going to run 5 times 53, a couple hundred tests, and we're going to go back a year. So let's go ahead and kind of see what that looks like. We're going to run, what did I say, 290 tests right here. Okay, it's going to start with, and this is just all of the built-in systems to Metastock. It's going through. It's already looked at the CCI. It's doing Darvas box right now. It's doing Bollinger Bands right now. It's going to tell us what works on these 5 stocks, NGLD, ETF, what doesn't work and how well it works. And you'll see that it's almost done. It's about 62% of the way. Whew. Get on it. Take a little bit of a breather. All right. Okay, let's take a look. Let me go ahead and view the results here. Okay. And this is basically what you're going to see. Okay. So out of those 4 or 5 stocks, I'm going to sort these based on the systems and the profitability of the systems. Okay. What I'm going to have is we tested five or so stocks. This basically is, this screen that I'm looking at is going to be averages, average net profit, average percent gain, best profit, worst profit, average trades versus average profit versus average trade loss, average profit over average loss. So everything is average because we're looking at a basket of stocks. Okay. If I would have taken every single buy and sell signal for the last year on all 5 of those stocks, the best performing system out of the 56 systems that we tested would have been our PS fractal trading system. Okay. Over the last year, it would have made about 107% gain. The best performing stock in our basket would have made 28K. Our worst performing would have lost 354. Okay. On average, and this is average trades per stock, on average, it traded about 20 trades last year. Okay. So that's about, it's just shy of 2 trades per month. Okay. The average profit versus the average loss, for every $9.2, it lost $11.40 on a losing trade. We obviously had a lot more winning trades than losing trades because our average profit versus our average loss was $5.59. Okay. So, and I do call this finding the right strategy for you, because 20 trades, trade every month or 2, that's okay for me. Certainly 104 would be a little bit pushing it, right? 4 might be a little bit better, but it depends on kind of like how often you want to trade, okay? Obviously profit and drawdowns and those type of things are very, very important. But Also, like, how much time do you have for trading? For me, for Metastock, I've kind of scaled back my hours. I only work about 50 hours a week or so, like lately. But I also, depending on the day, have between 2 and 4 kids, and a very busy, youngish. I'm getting older every year, but let's say a busy working professional, for lack of a better term. 20 trades is pretty good. 104 is just out of the question. So what's the best for you, Samir? That's kind of like what we're talking about here. What works well into what we want to do. And where we're trading about 20 times a year, this looks pretty good. The average dollar versus the average loss, this also looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and drill into this just a little bit more. And this will give us a security by security view. So if I had done 4,000 different system tests, I'd be looking at 4,000 different green and red bars here. Okay, Tesla was the best performing one. It made 280% on 22 trades last year, although 9 of them were winners and 13 of them were losers. The reason we still made money is for every dollar we lost, we made about $8.26 in Tesla. Okay. Oh, disclosure, I own Tesla, I own Apple right now. And I think that's it on this list. I think I'm required to say that. Okay, Apple, 11 trades, 6 losses. Average profit versus average loss, $5.62 of gain for every dollar lost. Okay, 17 trades. So you kind of get the idea. There's a whole reporting mechanism. I'm looking at the time. I don't have time to kind of go into great detail here, but I do want to we'll just look at it. There's a whole bunch of stuff on here. There's a buy hold index. There's a profit loss index. There's a risk reward index. There's performance summaries. There's efficiencies. It tells you how long you're in trades. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look at that our training will kind of talk to you about what these are. And if you ever have any questions, you can always click on the help, and everything is kind of outlined up here. I do like to look at our equity line though before we kind of move on, and that way we can kind of see how well this performed over the year. In other words, for a good chunk of the year, you can look at you can look at a good chunk of this. It looks like we tested longer than a year. We're starting in 2017. I thought I put in a year, but maybe I had a different setting. But you can see for a good chunk of this, the performance was very phenomenal, and it's only started to pick up over the last year or two. So you get a good idea looking at this, what your equity line is going to look like. Okay. Now, one of the things that I want to be really specific about is I think that discipline is important for trading. And that's why I kind of start with the quote that I started with. And I think part of that is the ability for us, this has kind of gotten a little weird, to understand why we're making trading decisions. So this was what we called the PS fractal trading system #1. If I wanted to basically kind of go to the next step, what I'd do is I'd open up a chart of Tesla, okay? And I'm gonna go in very quickly, because I am running a little bit low on time. I'm going to go into the expert advisor here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the PS fractal system #1, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and attach that to the chart. I'm gonna go ahead and click on close right here. And that's gonna show me where I would have went long, where I would have went short, where I would have went long, where I would have went short, okay? If I come into this commentary right here, it's gonna give me a bit of a definition. I'm just gonna move this back to the buy day. And on that day, I would have told us if we're trading short positions, exit all short positions with the market on close order at tomorrow's market price. And then it goes in to tell us, okay, this is Bill Williams. Okay, this is what an up fractal is. This is what a down fractal is. This is how we're making decisions to get in and out of the stock. And then some warnings, like this system enters a long position when a price crosses above the most recent fractal. The position would be exited and a short position entered when the price crosses below the recent down fractal. So a lot of good advice that comes out of there, helps us understand. We test so that we can understand what works well. We then learn about it using the expert advisor. And then the last thing I'm going to show you in Metastock, just because of time, is the scanning functionality. So, and let's say that you kind of come in here, you decide that you really like the fractal trading system number 1, okay? Well, if we were looking at this back in, what day was this? August 12th, we would have gotten a buy signal on Tesla, but you probably wouldn't want to buy now, even though it's still in a long position. It's been in that long position for a while. So what the scanner allows me to do as an option trader is if I come in here, I'm going to come to my explorations. Exploration is the word we have for scanning. I'm going to go to the fractal trading system, which is going to be under P's here. And you can see there's hundreds of these scans that you can run. I'll say, okay, well, out of, let's still find it, out of all of the, go ahead and do just the S&P 500 real quick. Show me out of the S&P 500, which stocks have a fractal trading signal buy. And very, very quickly, I'll just go ahead and start that. We probably won't wait around for the results. But that quickly, it's going to go through. And you see it's chunking through this data. It's about halfway through 500. Wow, I'm sharing my screen and pulling data and sharing my audio and my video, right? It already went down to that. It rejected 94% of the stocks. And what I'm now doing is I'm focusing on actually the stocks that have an opportunity. This allowed me to ignore 94% of the stocks, 93.5% of the stocks, and just focus on the ones that actually have a buy or a sell today. If I'm looking for a buy today, I sort on this long column, and all of the, there's Swantech, there's Roper, Mettler, Keysight. Those are the AutoZone, interesting. But those are the ones that I can look at that have an opportunity for me to go on today. Johnny says the alligator from Bill Williams rocks. It does. I agree. No argument there. Alina says, can you use this for options? Yes, you can. I use it for options. Generally, when you're looking at Metastock, you're looking at, okay, well, I have 4,400 optionable stocks that are out there. Which are the best ones for me to buy a put or a call on? And it's very, very good at that. So Alina says, do you have a course to study this platform? I wouldn't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, it is. It's huge, right? We've been working on it for 30 years. One of the things that I like to talk about is I've seen a lot in 25 years. I've seen a lot of software come, seen a lot of software go. It comes with the home study course. I see the cameras turning on. Raleigh's going to start playing the music in a second. But yeah, there is a course that comes with the software, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. We are doing a little bit of an offer here today. So we have 2 versions of Metastock. We have Metastock Real-Time and Metastock DC. So Metastock RT includes that package of data that I was kind of talking about at the very first of the presentation. The package that has all the news and the fundamentals and the calendars, and they spent about $1 billion on it. It's only $250 a month, which is a fraction of what you'd pay as a hedge fund or an institution fund. And it does include what we call our Zenith package, the Refinitiv package. Okay. The other option that we have is what we call our Metastock DC. DC stands for daily charts, which means you get updates on the charts every day. It has everything that I showed you today. It's only $69 per month. Okay. The offer that we're going to do for you today is if you buy 1 month, we're going to give you 3 months. So if you do the end of day version, you're going to pay $69. You're going to have access to it till December 3rd, which is interesting that that's only 3 months away. We're almost into Christmas, right? So December 3rd is when you actually have access to Metastock. At $70 to December 3rd, you're going to pay about $18 or $20 a month. It's a little early for me to do math. So buy 1 month, we'll give you 3. It's a subscription. We'll include Metastock 17. We'll include data for the region of your choice. So you just say, I'm interested in North America. They give you a whole Americas package. That includes US, Canada, Mexico. There's also Asia, Pacific, and Europe. Those are the options that are available. We're going to have somebody actually call you up, help you install the program, and walk you through it. They'll spend an hour or 2 on the phone with you, depending on how much time you need to kind of just make sure everything's good. We call it our white glove installation support. We started doing that earlier this year. People love it. And we'll also give you the training as well. So you can take advantage of that at www.metastack.com/EMC. You could give us a call at 800-882-3040, and you can visit us at metastock.com/saleschat. I would say, oh, I'm sorry if that made a lot of noise in your ear, Raleigh. I would say, to just kind of sum up, Metastock's been rated every single year #1, 27 years in a row. That's longer than Nikki's been alive.
Love it. Keep it coming.
Anyway, you give us a call. It would be happy to send you more information. If I didn't answer your question, if I missed anything, I would be happy to give you some information. But I'd encourage you to try Metastock. It's helped me make better trading decisions for decades. 800-882-3040. And that's what I have for you guys.
I tell you what, fantastic presentation, Jeff. I mean, I could tell you were just starting to get going on some of the features and the capabilities, because they're just so darn extensive. And there were a couple of notes that I made during your presentation, and in case, and a couple of questions came in on this one. We saw that, there was a quick way to go through all the extensive studies that are loaded there. Is there a capability to build your own study?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Test it? Okay.
Yeah, you can combine indicators and stuff like that. The thing that I would talk about with that is it's actually really easy to do. So like there's other software that does that, but they require that you know how to write to Pascal or something.
I know, a programming language of some kind.
We actually even offer a service we'll write stuff for you for like $30. That's pretty ridiculous. So if you want to write a system test and you don't want to get into the language, maybe you're not nerdy like me, that's okay. We can write it for you.
Wow. Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable. To be able to take a system and then go back and so quickly test it, or to pick a commodity like what works best for crude, and take a look at that. Incredible. Jeff, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a sponsor. It's always great to see you. And folks, you can see on the screen the offer that he's got, the Metastock charts. Buy 1 month and get 3 months total. So you get 2 months free, whether it's the real-time market data program or the end-of-day daily charts. And there were also some other special bonuses that are provided, help with installation, things of that nature. A great package, very, very powerful for everybody. Jeffrey, thank you so much. Have a great day, buddy, and a nice weekend.